the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. Welcome to Business Rockstars. I'm Alex Worley, joined by the co-founders of Food Faves. We have got Sydney and Paul Epstein. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, if you could start out by telling everyone what is Food Faves and how did it come about?
Okay, well, I guess nearly, everyone across all demographics always asks the same question every day, which is, what am I hungry for? And, in a world with evolving technology and a need for instant gratification, Food Faves was created to just revolutionize the crave to dining experience. So what Food Faves is, it's a mobile application that's a personal dining assistant, and it basically helps you find the food you're craving and how to get it. So basically, it just shows users a series of photos, and you can
say what you like you say.
Yeah,
I want
exactly,
this kind of
and it's very
food
visual. So the images they appeal directly to your senses, and it's consistent with your preferences, and it's also very relevant because it's available at local restaurants, and it's based on the current location of the user.
That's awesome.
So Sydney actually conceived this a couple of years ago while she was still living in LA and working in production.
Yeah.
And she basically was trying to figure out the shortest distance between point A and point B. Point A is, I'm hungry. B is, all right, what do I do? What do I want to eat? Where do I find it? So Food Faves basically is showing people pictures of actual dishes in their area. And people or users get to sample the photos with their eyes. And that's the connection to their hunger. So when they find a dish that they see and they say, okay, that's what I want, okay, they can find out exactly where it came from, and it's a local restaurant near them. So the food's attainable.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, give me an example. If I'm a user, I go on this app and I plug in what sort of things that I'm looking for and what pops up.
Okay, yeah, so you could basically search the tags. If, let's say you wanted pizza, if you type in pizza, not only will the entire news feed populate with photos of pizza, but it's by radius, so you will only see what's closest to farthest. So you'll never be tempted by a photo that's 100 miles away. So it's very personalized to the user. And it's made up of different features depending on the situation you're in. If you're in a new city and just want to see what's around you, there's a Discover page that does the same thing. It's by radius. So yeah, it's all available.
What's it like working with your dad?
It's great. We've become very close. We've learned a lot about each other, definitely in the beginning. We're kind of finding that balance between the father-daughter relationship and the work partners relationship, but I think we do a good job with turning it on and off.
We both know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we play to those in a constructive fashion. And it's also kind of unique the way, we can be in father-daughter mode one moment, and then all of a sudden, one of us thinks about something with regards to Food Faves, the app, things to do, and we just go into a different language. It's like literally turning from English to Spanish, or just something else that the casual observer wouldn't understand.
So it feels like there's some separation.
Oh, definitely, and I think that's important.
It might be within the same conversation where you go from father-daughter to co-founder mode, but at least you guys have that separation. Is it something you'd recommend if someone watching or listening is considering going into business with family? Would you recommend it?
Oh, definitely. I think it's really important to have a balance. 100%, because you could talk about business all day long, and sometimes you just need to step back and go back into the father-daughter role and just make sure there's a good balance.
In addition to having non-family members work for us, we've involved family members. Sydney's sister and brother, have both been actively involved at different stages of creating the app and bringing it to market.
Awesome. So I love to talk about pivoting with my guests because a lot of our entrepreneurs watching and listening are in 9-to-5 jobs and they're thinking about leaving. Maybe they just left. And I know you come from the production world. You come from anesthesiology. So can you speak to pivoting into a new realm of entrepreneurship, and maybe what are some of the things that you prepared for, and what are maybe some of the surprises that have occurred?
Yeah, I mean, I do have my job that I do Monday through Friday. I do love it. And being an entrepreneur anyway is a 24/7 job, so I just kind of look at it as if I'm just always on the clock. There's always going to be more work to do. So I don't think you necessarily have to quit your job. Well, if you don't like it, you could quit.
Well, you're making both work
Yeah,
right now.
there's definitely a way to make it both work. You just need to be prepared to just understand that mornings and evenings, you're not done with the day. I personally work better in the morning, so I'll wake up early, get all my work done that I need to do for the app, and then I'll go to work, have the normal work day, and hopefully it's not too busy after that.
Yeah. How about you?
After a close to 30-year career in medicine, I'm actually looking forward to slowing down from clinical medicine and spending more time with Food Faves and working with Sydney because I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you could go back to those first initial months when you started this business, what advice would you give your early entrepreneurial self?
Well, definitely that Rome wasn't built in a day, and success does not happen overnight, and to just be patient. You come up with this idea and you just want it done the next day. You're so excited. So definitely a lot of patience I would give to my older son.
Right. We've spent close to 2 years just in design and development with our software developers. We started out envisioning something that was much more simple than we ended up producing as a final product.
Yeah. If you could create a startup toolkit, what would be inside? What's proven to be really helpful to you guys, either technology-wise, or maybe it's an intangible characteristic that you have to have?
Okay. I always say grit, very important, and patience, obviously. Flexibility to pivot if necessary. Don't be stuck in your ways. And definitely trusted advisors, bounce ideas off of.
I would agree.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about building the business. So sit tight. You're watching Business Rockstars. We'll be right back.
There needs to be more food fabric in our everyday dress.
Totally.
Just like getting us ready for lunch.
Now, Office Land.
There's no shortage of ridiculousness that we could do for barbecue. The corn dog is a classic, worn by Adam Devine in Workaholics.
Nice. Today I'm here because I need to make a sample for an org that is looking into using Uplique for their clothing needs. What's cool about Uplique that makes it different is that you're able to get that personal touch where you're able to make it just right. Oh, dope. Perfect.
Yeah, we gotta have a pizza party.
Oh man, it's got everything.
Wanna try black?
Let's try black.
We're gonna make a pocket tee.
Small team, like seeing how everything is like handmade, handheld. I think it's awesome operation. I think it just means having like your own individuality, having your own voice, having your own ability to be creative.
I love the founders, yeah. Emily brings phenomenal organization to the business, so the way each workstation is laid out, how every fabric is organized by number and by date, just things that are really easy to find to make sure production happens efficiently and accurately.
Ethan and I met through a mutual friend through school, and she kind of connected us, and I went in for like a 10-minute meeting. I think after 2 hours of talking together, I walked away with his business plan. We decided to incorporate 2 weeks later and just kind of hit the ground running.
I have always wanted to express myself with my clothes. I've seen clothing as a really pure form of self-expression, and when I was a kid, I would take my mom's fabrics and stitch them onto my clothes, and they immediately felt more like my own.
Ethan brings a lot of vision and creativity to the business, and you see it more than anything around the office and all the fabric and the textiles that are around.
Every day we source garments and they come into this zone. So Lydia is constantly ordering and bringing in new pieces, and then we actually move them over to the middle of our shop where they kind of get organized based on order number and kind of their placement. We have an ongoing queue, and this is our fabric collection, so he'll handle any fabrics or any embellishments that are going to go onto the garments. Got our board of ideas and constantly like writing up new concepts and things, so that's part of this. It's a great creative space. You come in and you're energized. There's color. There's people working on different projects. We have models in here, we have influencers, we have different folks coming through. So it's just a really great spot to be kind of the center of our community.
Welcome back to Business Rockstars. I'm Alex Worley, continuing my conversation with the co-founders of Food Faves. We've got Sydney and Paul Epstein. So I know you touched on this a little bit before, but if you could expand upon where the idea came from for Food Faves. Was there a specific instance or just moment where you really felt like, oh, I'm onto something?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, I had actually just moved out to Los Angeles, and I started working on a show, ironically called Young and Hungry, which is pretty descriptive of how I felt at that moment. And you know, you move into a new city, you need to know your go-to restaurants, your go-to takeout places, very important. So I was just kind of sitting there on my laptop, looking at Yelp, Seamless, all the sites that exist, and just my computer screen was just overflooded with all these different tabs, and there was really no way to keep track of anything. And I like to look at pictures. I think a lot of people do in order to judge what you think you like, because you can't always trust reviews. So it was in that moment where I kind of had that, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's when I just typed it all up and I sent him an email. And he said, don't show this to anyone. And
that's awesome.
we made our company, yeah.
So yeah, what was your reaction when you got her email?
I'm reading the email and I'm scrolling down, and I wasn't expecting to be basically impressed as I was. It was an idea that actually had legs, it made sense, and it had a business plan. And my immediate response to her was, don't discuss this with anybody. I'd like to talk to an IP attorney. I'd like to think about patenting your concept.
That's awesome. So what were some of those first steps that you guys took in getting a patent?
We had submitted a provisional patent on the idea. We had engaged a software development company offshore that we've been with the whole time, and they helped design and build our vision. And they did an awesome job of really understanding what we wanted to create and coding it. And we've had great continuity with the project manager, and he's been a wonderful advisor. And here we are.
Yeah, you know, an obstacle I hear entrepreneurs face a lot is when one of the co-founders is not technical in the sense that they don't code. That can be a challenge to outsource that really crucial, important component. It sounds like you guys are having success with that. So can you maybe offer some advice for how to go about making sure that you're hiring someone you really trust in that area?
Well, we actually heard about this particular software company from a referral. It was a referral from my attorney who had a client who had used them. And we didn't expect that we were going to contribute much in terms of a technical partner. It was really up to them to have us describe what we wanted to build and have them help us design it. And it was naturally with a lot of input. In fact, between Sydney being in LA for the first 2 years that we were doing the build, I was in New York, and Croatia is 6 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. We were on 3 time zones doing Skype calls at odd hours for a long time, but it was actually very effective.
And it's worked out.
It's worked out
That's
great.
awesome. That's
great.
amazing. So let's end on this. If you could tell me what the biggest challenge has been and the biggest success.
I guess I would personally say, I mean, back when we first came up with the build and the design for Food Faves, it was a minimal viable product. And over time, of course, there were all these new features and functionality we wanted to add. So I guess it was really difficult to know when it was finally perfect and ready to launch and just let the public see it.
Yeah,
so,
done is better than perfect, as the old saying goes.
I'd say successes included actually when we got the first patent on Sydney's concept, and then followed by the first permanent or non-provisional patent. And we've since actually gotten a second patent recently on the search algorithm that powers the Crave Quiz, which is the really unique part of this app, where you're basically swiping on photos that appear, telling the algorithm what you like, what you don't like, until it's learning, almost like artificial intelligence, what you're after, and then comes up with a match for a restaurant. That algorithm could be applied to a number of different things. but it was recently patented. I thought that was a great thing, and it also validated Sydney's idea as something that was actually unique and original.
So cool. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
As a foodie, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
So really happy for you guys, and thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your story with us.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us.
You bet.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to start and own your own business, to become an entrepreneur? My name is Steve Lehman, and my friends would describe me as a serial entrepreneur. I've been CEO of NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange companies, and I love starting and growing businesses. I've done this my entire life. If you'd like to learn how to become an entrepreneur, to start or grow your own business, then I'd like to invite you to go to businessrockstars.com. businessrockstars.com. An amazing community, and we're so confident that you're going to learn and love what you see. We're going to give you that first month for $1, $1. No tricks, no gimmicks. Learn from big CEOs, successful entrepreneurs, and mentors. So what do you have to lose? You're $1 away from something that could completely change your life. Go to businessrockstars.com. That's businessrockstars.com.
Welcome back to Business Rockstars. Now let's go to Mark Black.
Joining us is Eric DeHaan. He's the CEO and co-founder of Instabrand. Eric, it's a pleasure to have you, brother.
Same. Thanks for having me.
All right, so first, tell us about your company, Instabrand. What do you guys do?
Okay, so we're an influencer marketing company. And if you don't know what an influencer is, in our definition, is a social media celebrity, so to speak. Anyone from 10,000 followers up to 10 million plus followers. The platforms we focus on tend to be the mobile platforms, so we're talking about Instagram and Snapchat are the big two, but we're cross-platform, working with influencers on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, on YouTube, and so on and so forth. And so what we do, we execute full-on campaigns with these influencers on behalf of brands.
Okay, so how did you end up starting this business? Because that's the one question that, all right, I always have is, how did you start? And is this like one of your first businesses or what?
I was about 6 months out of college, and I was working with my brother and one of my now co-founders, Felix, and another friend on a project called Splurge. And what Splurge was, it was a flash sales aggregator where we looked at...
What is that, by the way?
So your daily deal sites like Gilt Group, Outlook, Rulala, Shop Style, we'd pull in different products being featured from these different sites. And instead of you getting bombarded with emails of different sales that weren't relevant to what you cared about, we'd curate that feed so that you only saw items that you cared about based on what products you liked, based on the price points you reacted to, based on different materials in the products. So sounds really nice. Now the issue with that idea, it's a very big idea, right? And the problem with big ideas is they take a lot of money to get off the ground. And being a few months out of college, no real experience other than my experience working at Outlook and interning really throughout college, was how do we raise money for this? And so the first thing is get an audience.
So you guys raised money for your business, Instagram?
We did, but we bootstrapped it until then.
Okay.
So this is for Splurge. So as we're building that up, we're saying, okay, well, to raise money, we need to show that there are users on this platform making purchases.
Of course.
And so, we went around and we had maybe $10,000 that we scrapped together. And we're looking for different ways to market. And so we spent about $8,000 on paid social ads. And we realized that we were just way off from the numbers we needed to get to that proof of concept phase. So I was sitting there, I said, I have $2,000 left. Guys, what are we going to do? My brother at the same time had a jean line that he launched. And by launch, I mean he had a few samples. And within 3 weeks, he was able to establish a following on Instagram of 20,000 followers.
Wow.
And people were commenting, hey, where can I buy this? Where can I get these pants? And the funny thing was, they weren't even in production. There were just a few samples. So when I asked my brother Alex, who's the founder of Instagram, how did you do this? He said, well, I have a few friends that have large followings on Twitter, large followings on Instagram, and I just asked them to wear the clothing and post about it. So I said, can they post about Splurge? He goes, yeah, sure, why not? And so we saw thousands of downloads coming in.
I think it's insane that your brother's concept jean brand is what kind of helped you guys start this other business. So continue.
Yeah. And it was funny then because now we had the users on this app. And we said, well, we're still not at the proof of concept phase yet. Now we need to get some brands directly being featured on the app so that they could sell their products through to the consumers that were now on the app. So we went to a fashion trade show. Our family background is in the fashion industry, so it's an industry we're very familiar with.
Okay, so that makes sense, because I was going to say, I was like, how the heck did he just create a concept for jeans and get 20,000 people to start following him right off the bat? You've been doing this, your family has, for a while.
Yeah, we grew up in that industry. We're fortunate enough to learn through osmosis, right?
Yeah.
And
still
so
impressive.
Yeah, and it was interesting. And we go to the trade show and we pitch, 1 brand, 2 brands, 3 brands, and we realize that the brands, they're kind of interested in the app, but not really, right? They're like, well, there are a lot of other apps to move my inventory.
Yeah.
But what we really care about...
It's a hard space to be in.
It's a hard space to be in. But what they really cared about was building their brand. And their eyes would open when we talk about how we were marketing our app, right? Our sort of secret sauce to how we built...
With the influencers.
With the influencers.
Okay. Which nowadays, I feel like if someone thinks that's a secret sauce nowadays, it's like, where have you been? Like an ostrich with your head on the ground. Like, because nowadays, that's really one of the biggest things people are capitalizing on is influencers. Even if the influencer has 1,000 followers, people are giving free products to them to post and take pictures with.
Yeah, and now it's a known sort of formula for building a brand. But back then, it was like, well, we know celebrities work, but who are these people we've never heard of?
The
now
millennials.
Yeah, exactly.
The millennials now.
And so by the 4th pitch, we said, you know what, let's give it a try. Let's pitch ourselves as a marketing company and see what happens.
Yeah.
So we go. It was myself, Felix, our other co-founder, and Alex, and then Joey, another co-founder as well. And we went up to a brand and we said, hey, we have marketing capabilities. Look what we did for this app. Look at the user numbers.
So
Look
how
at the
you grew your own
downloads.
business, you guys are like, we might as well market.
We might as well market. We said, it's worth a shot, right? And there's something called a sunk cost fallacy, right? Just because, the easy way of describing it is just because you bought a rotten fish doesn't mean you have to eat it, right? Just because we invested all this energy in this app doesn't mean that we have to continue down that path. It was a great way to bring us across another opportunity, and that was sort of the catalyst for us discovering the whole influencer space.
But I want to stop you right there, because that's a distinction that a lot of people need to recognize, is that you invest all this time, energy, and money in building a business, an app in your case, and then you realize that you can pivot, which is one of the most important qualities of an entrepreneur, is their ability to pivot based on results. And you saw that there was an opportunity to take something you learned from that, you referred to it as a rotten fish, and transition it into your next business, which I love. We'll be right back with Eric DeHaan to talk about his company and his business.
Is starting a business the right thing for you? I'm Alex Worley with the Business Rockstars Minute. Do you prefer following orders? Do you get along with everyone in your life? Here are a few signs that starting a business may not be the right thing for you. Number 1, you prefer following orders. The world is made of followers and leaders. Which one are you? Number 2, you don't like hard work. Entrepreneurship is all about hard work. It's about facing indecisions, insecurity, instability, and borderline insanity. Number 3, you get along great with everyone in your life. As it turns out, entrepreneurs aren't the wide, grinning, backstabbing, glad-handing socialites they seem to be. Entrepreneurs trend towards the outer fringe of social behavior and cultural norms. So if you're sometimes labeled as a nerd or a geek, don't sweat it. Instead, go do what you were meant to do, start a business or two. I'm Alex Worley, and this has been a Business Rockstars Minute. This is Business Rockstars. Now back to Mark Lack.
Joining us is Eric DeHaan. He's the CEO and co-founder of Instabrand. Eric, what's up, brother? Good to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so give us a quick recap. What is Instabrand? What's your company do?
Yeah, so we're an influencer marketing company, full service. We have over 100,000 influencers that we work with, and we'll work with top-tier advertisers to connect them with these influencers to create very sort of organic native ads.
How the heck did you get 100,000 influencers to be part of this?
I think timing was everything, right? So
but it was it emails, phone calls, reaching out? How do you get 100,000 people? Did they come to you? Did you go to them?
A bit of both, right? Okay. So we were fortunate enough to be at the right place.
Break it down for me right now.
Yeah. We were at the right place in the right time in this industry. When we started, the word influencer wasn't coined yet, so you had you had the words like YouTuber, creator, promoter, social media
bloggers,
celebrity.
Yeah, whatever.
Right, and the word influencer wasn't there yet. So we started at a really early time in the mobile influencer space. And the reason the mobile influencer space is different than the YouTube space, because you look at the mobile revolution, everyone has a phone in their pocket. That phone is a camera, it's an editing bay, it's a production studio. You could do everything with it. Versus YouTube, which is a great platform, but it's really limited to people who are passionate about creating video content. They're very limited to the kind of content they can create. It's more long form, right? And on top of it, it takes a lot more skill to create a long form video, right? You need to understand how to edit the video. You need essentially camcorders and to produce it. So this sort of mobile revolution allowed a sort of new generation of talent to come up very organically, right? And very easily with low barriers to entry. And so we came about just at that time, and we built a brand for ourselves and a name for ourselves where we're getting about 100 signups per day from influencers. But some are potential influencers, some are influencers.
But you're generating 100 leads a day.
100 leads a day.
Which for virtually any business is good if you have a decent close ratio.
Yep.
And of course, there's qualification processes that you have to put in place. But I mean,
huge, yeah.
You'd assume from those 100 people,
yeah.
if you had a qualification process that even was between generating the lead and converting it, right?
Yeah.
So if you had a form that they had to fill out to get those 100,
yeah.
What did you guys do? What did that process look like? Because I want to know, how did you set up the system for 100 people to be coming in?
Yeah, so the vetting is key, right? Because we're working... We're being trusted by top advertisers and just advertisers to really take their brand message. And with that, we need to make sure that the right influencers are carrying their message. So the vetting process is everything from validating their followers to...
Congruency between brand and influencer.
Right. And I can get into that a little bit later with how we... That's a bit of our secret sauce with how we match the two. And then we look at, are they real? Do they have a criminal record? Are they... have they posted
really
the proper content?
Deep.
Yeah, is there any profanity in the sort of content they create? What is it? And we build a full profile, right? And then also look at their engagement rates, their follower counts, and build that full profile. Then we also, in conjunction with the inbounds that we get, we also reach out to influencers, right? Because we don't want to just be dependent on people that come to us. We want to make sure that we're getting a full overview of the entire market. So then we'll do some reach out and say like, okay, which influencers and which verticals do we need to sort of fill into our network to give us a more comprehensive view of the sort of influencer economy?
So how do you make sure that you're getting accurate data?
So on the pricing side, this comes back to us being one of the first, or if not the first, to get into this space and watching the market grow, right? Because prices have been inflated. There's been a lot of hype with the space, a lot of demand, which drove the pricing up. Since we've been negotiating these rates since the beginning, we were able to really...
With the influencers.
With the influencers, we're able to get a very accurate model and build a very accurate pricing model based on all our historics and see very accurately, hey, what have we paid? What has the return been? In some cases, we've negotiated preferred pricing deals with the talent. So that then keeps our real insight in the market there. Because, for example, you're L'Oreal. You go to an influencer directly. That influencer might say, hey, I want 50 grand to do this post. We might look in our model and see, well, based on everything historically, based on the ROI that we've seen, this is worth more like $2,000. And
not 50.
Not 50, right?
So they're better coming to you than going to the influencer. Because for the influencer is just going to be like, I don't care what the metrics are. I don't keep track of that. You're just going to pay me to post. But you guys have actual data from references of previous posts at similar calibers. And you can say, hey, look, that person asked for 50. You'd be crazy to pay that. We'll get it to you for 3,000 because we can show you true metrics.
Right. And then on top of it, having the access from the data side and then layering the pricing data on top of it, we're able to really see a full scope of the marketplace. So it might be justified that this influencer is worth $50,000 through some other variables that they have. But at least we know, right? At least we have that visibility.
Curveball question for you as we wrap up. What's one of the craziest things that happened to you so far in business, and what was the lesson from it?
Oh, craziest things. That's a great question. So early on, we had, maybe it's not the craziest, but it's the most fun.
There we go. That's perfect.
It's one of my favorite stories to tell, and it's a great way of highlighting sort of in our industry what can happen when you're working with people.
Lay it down for us.
We had a large campaign very early on.
Give us a reference point of what a large campaign range is.
A few $100,000 campaign.
It's a large campaign.
It's a large campaign in which we had an influencer, 17-year-old guy, very talented influencer, who was sort of the keystone influencer for this campaign, right? And the day before he was supposed to create the content and go to, it was for a film, before he was supposed to go to the movie premiere, he got grounded by his mom. And
and there's like a kid that has like 10 million followers or something.
Like massive following, and his mom decides to ground him. So I'm like, okay, I have to pick up the phone.
Which is crazy, because like you should just move out of the house if you have money. Like,
right. And so I pick up the phone, I call his mom. And I said, why is he grounded? Like, this is a huge opportunity. Like, we have contracts in place. She's like, I know, but he's never going to learn his lesson if it doesn't hurt a little bit. She took away his phone. So
and that's an influence that's huge.
That's huge, right? I mean, that's
your connection.
That's the connection point. So she's like, it needs to hurt. So like, please, begged her for hours. She would not budge. And luckily we had a replacement influencer queued up, ready to go, and we had the process in place, and we had a little bit of foresight to really see that coming. But it's one of my favorite stories because it kind of goes to show you, like, curveballs can come from anywhere.
That's why I threw you a curveball question.
Yeah.
I love that story. I can say that you beat me there. I've never had one of my clients be grounded.
Yeah.
Eric, pleasure having you on the show, brother.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Lack on Business Rockstars.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to start and own your own business, to become an entrepreneur? My name is Steve Lehman, and my friends would describe me as a serial entrepreneur. I've been CEO of NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange companies, and I love starting and growing businesses. I've done this my entire life. If you'd like to learn how to become an entrepreneur, to start or grow your own business, then I'd like to invite you to go to businessrockstars.com. businessrockstars.com, an amazing community, and we're so confident that you're going to learn and love what you see. We're going to give you that first month for $1, $1. No tricks, no gimmicks. Learn from big CEOs, successful entrepreneurs, and mentors. So what do you have to lose? You're $1 away from something that could completely change your life. Go to businessrockstars.com. That's businessrockstars.com.
After this short break, more Business Rockstars. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome to Business Rockstars. Joining me right now, we have Leon Logothetis. He is the author and host of The Kindness Diaries. You may have watched this series on Netflix, and I am so excited to talk to you. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar, what is The Kindness Diaries?
So The Kindness Diaries is a journey I took where I took a vintage yellow motorbike with a sidecar, and I circumnavigated the world, relying on kindness, but with a twist. A, I had no money, and B, the kind strangers that helped me received a life-changing gift.
Wow, okay, so many follow-up questions.
Yes.
First of all, let's start with the big one. Why? I know you left a very secure, successful job for this journey, so why did you make that transition?
So I was a broker in the City of London, and on the outside I had everything. On the inside, I had nothing. And I was wearing a mask, which many of us do, which tells the world that we're okay. But I was not okay. And I saw the movie The Motorcycle Diaries, which is a romanticized version of Che Guevara traveling around South America, relying on kindness. And something about that movie just changed everything for me. And I decided I was going to quit my job because I didn't want to be a broker. I was living someone else's life. And I was going to start to travel around the world. And that's kind of the short version of how I ended up on Netflix.
Yeah, ended up on Netflix. Yeah, very short version. A few details in between.
and 10 years. But...
Yeah, we'll dive into those details.
Yeah.
But let's go back to when you were having that feeling of emptiness inside, because I think a lot of us can relate to that, especially our entrepreneurs watching and listening. They're at a time where they're pivoting, where maybe right now they are living someone else's life. And I think all of us at some point, if not still, have a little bit of that emptiness inside that we a lot of times fill that void with what society tells us will make us happy. And those a lot of times will look like things that make us look successful on the outside. Money, titles, followers. So what do you want to share with our entrepreneurs if they're feeling a little bit of that emptiness inside and want to do something about it?
I would say two things. The most important thing is to share your pain. Is when you're suffering, don't wear that mask. Take that mask off and share your pain with someone, and share your hopes with someone, and share your dreams with someone. And don't live the rest of your life following another person's dreams. And I would say, secondly, follow your bliss. That's a famous quote by Joseph Campbell, the guy who mentions the hero's journey. Follow your bliss. Because if you follow your bliss, you will always have a why. And if you have a why, you will never give up.
Let's talk about that why a little bit. Sometimes that's thrown around in entrepreneurship, but a lot of people don't know what it means. Is it purpose? Is it meaning? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, like what's your passion? What's your purpose? Why do you get up in the morning? What is something that really inspires you to keep on going? Like Winston Churchill once said, when you find yourself walking through hell, keep walking. And yeah, and what he meant by that was sometimes pain happens, sometimes suffering happens. But if you have a reason to walk through that forest of pain, you will not stop.
I think that's the solution a lot of times to that void, is finding meaning. And it's not what society tells us, the success, the titles, all of that. It's really, really finding that why, finding that meaning and moving forward. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Like I said, if you have a why, it's very difficult for someone to stop you. But if you have no why and a certain roadblock comes and hits you, it's like, well, I'm just going to give up.
Yeah. And when you say it like that, it makes it seem so, well, duh, obviously, this is what we need to do. But I think that a lot of times people get paralyzed in fear of change, fear of what people will think, fear of the repercussions, fear of being vulnerable and putting themselves out there. But as someone who's done this so beautifully, what has your experience actually been taking this leap?
Sure, and that's a very good point. I don't want anyone to think that it's just, oh, Leon watched a movie and then changed his life and everything worked out. That's not how it works. I mean, you know, it took 10 years to get on Netflix. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of bad things happened, but I kept on going. So I would say that one of the most important things is ultimately to believe in yourself. And if you can't believe in yourself, it's to find someone that believes in you and to get them to mirror back to you, I believe in you. Because when someone looks into you, right into your eyes and says, I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself, you start to believe it. I think that's a really important part. It's
contagious, yeah,
absolutely. It's contagious. It really is.
And that's something that you provided for a lot of people on your travel journey, the Kindness Diaries. Tell me a little bit about that journey. First of all, what it looked like from a logistical standpoint, but then also what came from it from a heart level.
Sure. So I had been used to sitting behind a desk for many years, and I wanted to go out into the world and meet people, and I wanted them to be able to meet me. So I took this yellow motorbike and I had to go from LA all the way around the world back to LA with no money. Now, you can imagine logistically that's a bit of a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I did have to pay for the visas, because you can imagine arriving in Turkey saying, look, I'm really sorry, but can I come to your country? They're like, well, where's your visa? We're like, well...
That wasn't in the budget,
Well,
sorry.
exactly. So there were certain logistical things. I had to get ships to cross the oceans. But the most important part of the trip was to connect with another human being. That's what I wanted to do. Because it's one thing to go out into the world and be great at business, but if you're not great at connecting, and if you're not giving back on a grand scale, or even on a moment-to-moment scale, then what's the point? Because that's where the magic lies, the connection between two human beings, and taking your gifts and giving of yourself to other people. That's the true magic.
Well said. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how you landed that Netflix spot and so much more. We will be right back. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. After this short break, more Business Rockstars. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome back to Business Rockstars, where I'm continuing my conversation with the author and host of the Kindness Diaries. And as you alluded to earlier, getting on Netflix was not overnight. It was many years in the making. So give us the nutshell version of how you ended up on Netflix.
Sure. So let's talk about the Kindness Diaries and how that happened. I ended up doing the show. I used to run a production company. No one wanted the show. So I did this amazing journey, well, I thought it was amazing, and ended up trying to sell it. And no one wanted it. Forget about Netflix. No one wanted it. And for months and months, I thought to myself, well, you know, I've wasted all this money, I've done this journey, and no one's going to see it. But I'm English, as you can tell from my accent. And Winston Churchill was the famous Prime Minister in the Second World War, and he has a very famous saying. It says, never, never give up. So I never gave up, and I kept on going. And I ended up finding a distribution company that would help me sell the show. And I said, look, guys, this is my last chance to get the show out there. They said, we'll do our best. And a few months later, they called me back and they said, well, we have some good news for you. And I said, what's the good news? And they're like, well, we've managed to sell it to Netflix. And I was like,
what was
you've
your
done
reaction?
what? I mean, it was amazing because that was the pinnacle. That was like to get it out to be seen by as many people as possible. That was the pinnacle. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful moment because I knew that people would see it. I mean, it had aired in a few other places, but not on that kind of platform. And once it aired on Netflix, people started to send me messages and tell me beautiful things about how the show had touched their lives. And it was so beautiful to see all the hard work come to fruition.
Sure. And now you are going on a speaking tour. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm doing a speaking tour across America and Canada where I will be talking about the Kindness Diaries and trying to inspire people to go and be kind. That's it. It's simple. I had a 9-year-old kid come up to me after one of my speeches and she goes, Mr. Leon. I'm like, yes. She's like, kindness is not rocket science. and she was right. She was right. You can go out into the world and you can make money and you can do whatever is your dream, but you can still be kind. It's a simple thing that a 9-year-old understands, and we seem to have forgotten it.
Yeah, why do you think we have forgotten it?
Society, we're conditioned, we're told that, you know, if you're kind, you're weak. If you're kind, you're not weak. Muhammad Ali, one of the kindest men in the world, full of heart. How many people would mess with Muhammad Ali? Not many.
Right.
You know, so you can be strong and you can be kind.
Right, absolutely. So your latest book is Live, Love, Explore. What is that about?
Live, Love, Explore is about finding the life you're always meant to live. And it's my journey from sitting behind that desk to doing what I'm doing now, which is what I love, which is doing TV shows, which is writing, which is doing these speeches. It's about finding your passion and implementing that passion in your life.
What advice do you have for an entrepreneur who would love to travel, who would just love to be a nomad and work on their computer and travel the world while furthering their business?
I would say be as creative as your heart allows you to be. Use your mind to a certain degree, but follow your heart. And if you truly want that, it can be done. You can look on the internet today and see thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are doing just that, living on the road using their computer. So if they can do it, then so can you.
Absolutely. You're in a unique space where you're very creative, obviously. You made this series, you're a writer, you're a speaker, but then of course you're also a business person. So you have to wear a variety of hats. If you could share a little bit about the various hats you have to wear in entrepreneurship and kind of how you nurture those various roles.
Sure. So you're absolutely right. There's the creative hat and there's the business hat. If I'm being totally honest, I would rather always wear the creative hat.
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, that's my forte.
Yeah.
But I understand very clearly that you have to also wear this hat. And it's just a question of, you know, left brain, right brain, coming from both places as you can. The magic happens here, but there's also magic here. You know, where the business world has a certain set of skills that are very important, that if you, let's say, have these skills, but you don't have these skills, then there's a bit of an issue. If you have these skills, but you don't have these skills, so it's an issue of nurturing both of those, but ultimately following your heart. And if you get to a place where you can hire someone who can do the business side of things and you do the creative, then great. If you can't, then you just have to juggle both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there an entrepreneur or just a leader in our world that you really look up to, that you look at them and go, they're doing it right?
I would have to say Richard Branson, because here is a man that you can see that he's got both. He's got creativity and he's got business, and he does good, and he lives his life and has fun. I mean, what more do you want?
Not much. I would take his life.
Yeah, so would I.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Your journey is just incredible and so inspiring. So thank you for stopping by here on one of your many stops.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. Thanks for sharing the time with us, and we'll see you next time on Business Rockstars.